Let's talk to God. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk to God. Woo!
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler virtual book club, and the Let's Talk to Cutler YouTube channel. And it's another Tuesday. It is the 18th of June, and I'm thrilled to be here, excited to be here. Just recently celebrated a birthday, and for all of the fathers and the father figures who are watching, happy belated Father's Day to all of you, and to everybody who has a birthday in the month of June. Happy birthday to all of us. I hope that you're having a great time. Hope that you had a fantastic day and a good weekend. We get ready to spend another 1,800 seconds together. And just in case people are passing by for the first time and they're wondering what we do here, what do I talk about, and what is this channel all about? What is this platform for? It's really a platform where I try to offer inspiration and motivation. It is always my hope that I say something that may be inspirational, something that pushes us to look for a space that's called better and to strive for that space, realizing that better doesn't have to happen 5 weeks from now, 5 months, or 5 years from now. Better happens as soon as I say to myself that this is not as good as it gets. This is not the end all be all, that things don't it doesn't have to stay in this space always, but there's a space where I evolve and I experience the dynamics of life, and I realize that the dynamics of life are working together for my favor. So we collectively talk and we chat about things, real life things that we get through. And I'm going to talk this evening, and I hope that we can have a great conversation about how to turn your mistakes into milestones. And I'll tell you what prompted that conversation in just a moment. But as I do always, I want to say to you all, thank you for those of you who have been with me for a while. I appreciate you more than you know. And for those of you who are just joining the ride, come on. I hope that you guys enjoy the ride. I hope that you enjoy it so much so that you tell other people, come on and let's talk with color, because this man is really trying to help save somebody's life. And in a literal way and in a proverbial way as well, literal and figuratively. It's probably a phrase that some of you are more accustomed to hearing. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in. And I'll shout out the LTTC VIPs in just a moment. Those are the people who I see in the chat first. Now, they're the people that I see on my end of the chat first. Sometimes some of you say, "Oh, Cutler, you didn't call my name." It's just because I didn't see you in the chat first. I may have seen others, but I want to thank you all for joining. And again, if you have not subscribed, do me a favor. Come on, what are you waiting for? I want to see my friends. Come on and join. And once you subscribe, then you can click on that notification button that's either down there, over there, up there somewhere. It lets you know whenever I've gone live and whenever I've uploaded new content. The LTTC VIPs for the evening, the top 3 people that I see in the chat are Paula D, Annie, Cullen, and Marissa. It's so good to see all of you. And I see others who are on. You just haven't hopped over into the chat just yet. But thank you for being here. Go and tell somebody else to come on, and let's talk about how to turn mistakes into milestones, because sometimes we mentally beat ourselves up for the mistakes that we make, and sometimes we allow other people to beat us up, and sometimes we beat up on other people for making mistakes. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how we really should handle mistakes, because there is a marked difference. There is a marked difference between mistakes and excuses. And I think we should handle those as they are, handle those for different ways and different reasons. I think there should be methodologies for how we handle mistakes, and there should be methodologies for how we deal with excuses as well. I think that mistakes are the things that we can really turn into milestones. I really do believe in my heart of hearts, and you all chat with me this evening, you all talk to me. I think that people will give you grace if you make mistakes, but they will give you grief if you make excuses. Tell me what you all think of that statement. People will give you grace if you make mistakes, but they would give you grief if you make excuses. Cutler, why do you say that? I say that because mistakes are the things that come about when you sometimes fall short. You did your best, but you fell short. You did your best, but you just didn't quite make it to the finish line. You did your best, but you just didn't quite reach your goal. You did your best, but you just didn't quite make it to the top. You did your best, but you didn't really manifest the victory that you thought you were going to manifest. You did your best. You put forth an effort and you tried. And so then when you fall short, that is as a result of having made a mistake. The difference between mistake and excuses is that an excuse comes about when you were fully able, completely capable, but you chose not to do a thing. And so you see the difference. So sometimes whenever we make mistakes, people will give you grace. But when you are fully capable and completely able and you choose not to do something, nothing hindered you, nobody stopped you, nothing got in your way. You got in your own way, you got in your own head, you got in your own mind, and you deliberately chose not to do a thing. And then you make excuses for choosing not to do a thing. People will give you grace for mistakes, but they'll give you grief for excuses. It because with the mistake, people see the effort that you made. With an excuse, they don't see the effort. And it's best to, thank you, McDina, it is best to just go ahead and be upfront with others and let them know. It's easier to do that. We all make mistakes, and I want us to learn not to beat ourselves up because of the mistakes that we make. So what is it that we should do with mistakes? Because they are a natural part of life, you all. They really are. Mistakes are a natural part of life, and if the truth be told, they can be an important part of personal growth. Sometimes we have grown because of the mistakes that we have made. Some of my greatest lessons have come about not because of my successes, but because of my failures. Some of my greatest lessons have come about not because of my successes, but because of my failures. Mistakes can be a fantastic part of personal, professional, spiritual, emotional, and all kinds of growth. There are some things that we just need to learn to do with them, to turn them into milestones. And one of the things that we need to do, McDina, it goes right along with what you suggested, my friend. One of the things we can do is to accept them. Here's how we handle mistakes. What do we do with them, Cutler? One of the things that you need to do is to learn how to accept them. I understand, and I'm the first to confess, it can be difficult to admit a mistake. It really can. But it is so important to accept what happened and learn how to move beyond. You will never move beyond until you can meander in that moment. And what do I mean? In the present moment of my mistake, let me accept the fact that I made the mistake and let me navigate around that, not try to make any excuses, but accept the fact that I made a mistake. And that way it can help me with my personal growth, my professional growth. That way I can accept what happened and learn how not to let it happen again. And I accept it and I move beyond it without holding any kind of resentment, because holding on to resentment, can I tell you this? Holding on to resentment really doesn't hurt anybody else as much as it hurts you. I'm telling you. What we should do with those mistakes, not just learn to accept them, you all. And again, please hear me clearly when I say it's difficult. It is difficult. I need to put up both hands and both feet when I confess that it is difficult to admit to having made a mistake. Why would I say that? Because our egos get so much in the way. Our egos get in the way. But can I tell you what's more important to me than my ego? My relationships with the people who are in my life. I need to stop and park here and just have a conversation right there all night long. If we realize how much people are important to us, then we'll learn to sacrifice our ego. I think we just need to have funerals for our egos. Because if we would have funerals for our egos, then we would give life to the relationships that we need and ought to have. Sonia, you're right. It is hard to admit when you are wrong, especially when you are loud and wrong. Or as my godmother would say, loud, proud, and wrong. But let's learn how to handle these mistakes, you all. Let's accept them and then let's learn from them. This I often say on this platform, I'm here to offer inspiration. I'm here to offer motivation, but I'm also here to offer challenges. I offer us this challenge tonight to learn how to accept our mistakes, learn how to put our egos in check. Mistakes can be valuable lessons that can help you become a better person, a better individual, a better decision maker, a more self aware person. Because what we need to do is to try to look at the mistake objectively, the same way we would look at a mistake that somebody else made who was close to us, and we would tell them not to beat themselves up. And so, if we can learn to do the same thing, try to look at a mistake objectively and openly identify, well, what went wrong here? What went wrong? And so then you try to look at a mistake objectively, you try to identify what went wrong, and then you consider how to prevent a similar mistake in the future. So, one, accept from them, learn from them. Sonia McDina is asking, "What do you mean when you're loud and wrong?" I think it's the fact that uh, when you publicly proclaim something and you have an audience who have witnessed the fact that you are wrong. So I think it's just a proverb or an analogy or proverbial way for saying your mistake has some public awareness or an awareness that just it's not a private mistake, but it is a public mistake. I think perhaps that's what she means. And you can chime in, Sonia, in the chat and let me know if that's not what you mean. But we have this saying, when you're loud, just loud or wrong, it means people see that you were wrong. People know that you were wrong, and your wrongness has this degree of publicity to it. All right. And then, so not only must we accept the mistakes, not only must we learn from them, but here's another thing, y'all, don't prioritize them. Just don't prioritize your mistakes. I think sometimes we prioritize mistakes, but we make them the priority in our thoughts and we think about them all the time. And what happens when we prioritize our mistakes, we forget to prioritize ourselves. But can I tell you, even in the middle of your mistakes, you are still the most important person that you have. Why would you say that, Cutler? Because if you learn not to prioritize your mistakes, you won't forget to be kind to yourself. Mistakes can bring all these uncomfortable emotions about. They can bring all of this shame and this embarrassment, all of this kind of stuff. But may I say to you, mistakes should not be prioritized because you don't want anything to keep you from being kind to yourself. It's important to acknowledge and express your feelings without judgment. Don't prioritize your mistakes and walk in shame and embarrassment and humility, but make sure that you acknowledge what you're going through, express your feelings of what you've done without judgment. Treat yourself with the same compassion that you would show others if they made a mistake. Don't prioritize them in your head, but acknowledge them, learn from them, and be kind to yourself. Learn how. Thank you, Sonia. I was hoping that I characterized and explained it right. But make sure that you are kind to yourself. And here's something else that you do with mistakes. Don't dwell on them. For goodness sakes, do not dwell on them. Don't you dwell on them, and don't let other people dwell on the ones that you made. Don't do that. Why would I say that? Because I've learned in my life, you all, that dwelling on mistakes can lead you into a space of depression. It can lead you to a space of feeling helpless. It can lead you to a space of feeling hopeless. So we need to learn how to give ourselves permission to take our minds off of the mistakes that we made. Don't dwell on them. Don't dwell on them. Give yourself a little time to grieve over the mistakes and the things that you made, and then learn to move beyond. Don't dwell on your mistakes, because then you start having this thing that's called self-pity and this pity party, and you don't want to do that. Grieve about what you did wrong, but then keep on going. You don't want to lead yourself into a space of depression. There are enough things in life that have the potential to cause depression without you leading yourself into a space of depression. There are enough things in life that have the potential to cause you to feel helpless without you leading yourself to a space of helplessness. There are enough things in life that have the potential to cause you to feel hopeless without you leading yourself to a water trough of hopelessness. Give yourself permission to take your mind off the mistakes that you made. Don't dwell on them. And then here's something else that you do with mistakes. Figure out how to do what's next, how to handle what's next. Take a little time to do some self-reflection. It's important. I made a mistake, but now let me do some self-reflection. Let me take some time to think about what I did so I can change that situation. Can I undo? Is there a possibility for me to undo what I did? Let me self-reflect and see how I feel about myself, what I think about myself, what's going on here, what could I have done differently? Do some self-reflection. Consider what led up to this mistake in the first place. What can I do differently in the future? That's how we learn from our mistakes. Did I tell you all that I have learned more from my failures and my mistakes than I have from my successes? It doesn't mean that I want to have more failures and more mistakes, but I have learned more because I've learned what not to do as well as what to do. So how do we take them? You're right, Marissa. Learn from your mistakes. It is so important. It is an egotistical person who does not learn from his or her mistakes. It is an arrogant person who will not confess and accept and admit one's mistakes. And let's not have egotistical and arrogance named among us. We are inspirational. We are motivational. We are strong. We are successful. We are victorious. And we are strong and successful and motivated and victorious and inspired because we learn how to handle all of the things in life, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. And that includes our mistakes. And so we learn how to, we learn that although we make mistakes, we don't make excuses. When it comes to something that you didn't do, own up to it and learn to move beyond. Again, why, Cutler? Because people will give you grace for making mistakes, but they'll give you grief for making excuses. So then, how do we turn, Cutler, you're talking about turning these mistakes into milestones. How do we do that? Can I tell you one of the first things that you do? So I want to go back to when you acknowledge your mistakes, you turn your mistake into somewhat of a stepping stone, into somewhat of a milestone because you try to admit it as soon as you can, and it becomes a stepping block for you to get somewhere else. You apologize if necessary because a lot of times we make mistakes and we know how to correct them. A lot of times, oh, Cutler, we don't want to hear this, not this evening on June the 18th. We don't want to hear this, but how do we handle mistakes? Sometimes a mistake commands and demands that you go to someone and apologize if necessary. Because when you at least make the effort to apologize for a mistake, it can show that you respect the other person who has been affected by the mistake, because it still shows in your humanity, in the core of your soul, that there's a person there, there's a human there. And apologizing can also show that you really do regret your mistakes, that you're willing to take responsibility for it, and that you're using it as an opportunity for what, Cutler? For self-improvement. And learn how to do it, even if they don't accept it. Just apologize and keep on moving. Why would you say that? Because the apology has more to do with you than it does the person to whom you are apologizing. So you turn it into a milestone, a stepping stone that says, you know what? I'm going to turn this into something that makes me a more respectful and a better person. I respect humanity enough to apologize when I've done something in error, when I've done something wrong, when I've made a mistake. How else do you turn your mistakes into a milestone? By analyzing it. Let me stop and think about this thing. What caused this, and how do I resolve it? And what is it that I did or did not do so well? What did I do poorly? Let me analyze and understand my mistakes so I can help determine what I can do differently in the future. It becomes a moment of learning. So now I have a milestone whereby I respect humanity when I learn how to acknowledge. But now when I analyze it, I have another milestone that I can step on because I know what's going to make me better. I know how to avoid this situation. Let's say, for example, you just forgot to send somebody an email. That's a mistake. You forgot. We all make mistakes. You forgot to send somebody an email. And you could determine that you made this mistake because you didn't add sending that email to your to-do list. So what do? You make sure that you update your to-do list. You get something that helps you with planning. You get something that helps you with prioritizing. So now you've increased and improved your skills. And another thing that I think we can do, we don't always like this, and you have to be careful with this, y'all, is how do I turn a mistake into a milestone, Cutler? Try to get feedback on what you did. Try to get the opinion and feedback from somebody that you trust. Someone who has your personal interest at heart. Try to get some kind of constructive criticism because it can help you identify areas where we need improvement. And may I put up both hands and feet to say that we all need improvement in some or more areas of our lives always. None of us have it all together. None of us have it all together all the time. If you ever run into somebody who suggests that that they have everything together all the time, may I suggest to you, you've run into a liar. Cutler, did you really say that? I did. Because nobody has it together all the time. And we need constructive criticism so that we can always identify areas where I can be better. Sometimes you can ask the mentors in your life for advice. How do I address this mistake? How do I handle this? Maybe there's a mistake that you've made that you really don't know how to solve. And so it's okay to reach out to the people who you've given permission in your life to be those guide to give you guidance and to be your mentors and to be your counsel of wisdom, if you will. People who can give you insight, people who can tell you how to approach it differently, how to handle the difficult situations. Learn how to get feedback, because in learning how to get feedback, you've turned your mistake into a milestone. And why would I say a milestone? Milestone because you have now given value to the people who are in your life, and you've reminded them that you are in my life for a particular reason. All right? And then here is how you also turn your mistakes into milestones. Make sure that you find the lesson in it. What is the lesson that I need to learn? Sometimes we just need to look for the lesson. A key step in learning from your mistakes is finding the lesson. Sometimes as we are analyzing what happens, we have to say to ourselves, let me find the lesson. Let me find what went wrong. Let me find out what I should have learned. McDiney, you said run in the opposite direction. But can I tell you this whole notion about finding the lesson? Maybe a mistake taught you something that you didn't know before. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I was trying to do this, but I didn't know how to do this. Oh, now I know. Oh, that was the lesson. Maybe the mistake showed me how I can improve some skills. Maybe the lesson showed me how I can improve myself in functioning in the workspace, in the workplace, or around family, or in civic or social settings. I'm telling you, maybe you missed a key deadline. And so now the mistake has taught you that you need to learn how to set goals and how to prioritize your time and how you need to do time management. This wasn't a mistake, but I started carrying my car keys around my neck. One of my friends said that was tacky and it's better to carry a small crossbody purse. Well, but the fact of the matter is that it was a friend and it was somebody that you trusted and somebody that you clearly had given that space in your life to offer guidance and to offer suggestions. So while it may not have been a mistake, maybe it's something that you didn't do as, what is my word? As diligently as you could otherwise. And so you've given someone permission in your life to offer you that counsel, to offer you guidance. Give value to the people who are in your life. They're in your life for a reason. There are people in my life, and I say to them, I need to have and want to have honest friends. I want my friends to point out my mistakes to me, do it in love, give me all the constructive criticism that you can, because I need to become better. I always want to be sharper. And so I give my friends and my community the permission to say things to me, to point out my shortcomings and my weaknesses. I would be completely self-aggrandized and I would be completely egotistical. I would be completely conceited. I would be completely arrogant if I didn't think I needed people in my life to help me, to point out my shortcomings and give me constructive criticism and love. And so then, it would make no sense for me to learn the lesson, but then not apply it to situations in my life. Learn the lessons and then learn how to apply the situations. That is really turning it into a milestone so that way you don't make the same mistake again and again. Oh, this is what I did wrong. Let me learn how to communicate differently. You're telling me this is what I should have done. Okay, now if life is gracious and life is kind, I get another opportunity to prove myself. This is what I learned. Oh, that's what I should have done. All right. When that opportunity comes up again, this is what I'll do because this is what I now know. And making milestones from mistakes is about what I now know that I did not necessarily know before. Perhaps I know that I need to be a little more flexible. Perhaps I now know that I need to be a little more grace giving in terms of dealing with people. Perhaps I now know that I need to communicate a little bit more. Perhaps I now know something that I didn't know. That is what applying the lesson is all about. That's how you turn a mistake into a milestone. Learn the lesson and then apply it. And can I offer us this, you all? Turning mistakes into milestones could very well entail teaching other people what you have learned. The same way a mentor taught you, you become a mentor to someone else and pay it forward. Consider telling other people the lessons that you've learned. Consider modeling for other people what you now know so you can help other people avoid the same mistakes that you made. That way, when you do that out of care and concern and the pool of humanity, it means that you're building relationships with the people who are in your life. And not only does it build relationship with the people who are in your life, but it solidifies the lesson in your head and in your heart. So that way, you see, when I come to this bridge again, I know how to navigate it. I know how to walk carefully across it. Teach others what you've learned. That's turning a mistake into a milestone. And then as you do that, I got to get out of here, you all. I told y'all, and you all know I'm only here for 1,800 seconds, but there's so much truth to this whole thing about mistakes. Learn how to reflect on your progress. When you make progress, celebrate yourself. When you learn that when you discover that you've made improvements because what I used to do, I don't do it the same way. What I used to do, I don't do anymore. I now know how to handle those mistakes. Make sure that you reflect on the improvements that you've made. Reflect on the fact that you're growing. My grandmother died at 97 years old, and she always said to me, "You're never too old to learn." And as you are not too old to learn, it means you're not too old to reflect on the progress that you're making. You can evaluate how you've applied the lessons in your life. Do that. I learned how to stick to my plan. Reflect on your progress. I learned how to be careful about how I speak to people. Reflect on your progress. I learned that I don't have to give feedback for every question that I've asked. Learn how to reflect on your progress. I learned how to keep my mouth shut sometimes because it's not always necessary to say anything. I'm learning how to reflect on my progress. Here is something that I read about mistakes earlier this morning, you all. So be careful how we handle them. I read that according to psychology, and I've got to get out of here. I learned that according to psychology, a mistake repeated more than once is a decision. So, was it really a mistake? So, if you repeated that mistake more than once, you did not necessarily learn from it, but it did not just become a mistake, it became a decision. A mistake repeated more than once is a decision. A mistake repeated more than twice is a habit. And the mistake repeated more than 3 times is your character. I've got to go. Listen, let me just say that one more time. A mistake repeated more than once is a decision. A mistake repeated more than twice is a habit. And a mistake repeated more than 3 times is your character. Hey, you all listen, it has been great having this discussion about how to turn these mistakes into milestones. Let's keep doing what we do. Let's keep building a community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. And I'm saying this to you all: keep your heads up, keep your hopes up, and know that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. I'm thankful for these 1,800 seconds that we spent. So wherever you've allowed me to come into your space this evening, thank you all. And I will see you the next time I see you. Have a fantastic, oh, by the way, tomorrow is Juneteenth. So, however you celebrate, however you acknowledge, however you observe the holiday, enjoy the time that you're spending with family and friends. And I will see you all the next time I see you. And until then, make sure that you tell somebody else, come on and let's talk the color. Good night, everybody.